pleased to have here on my set one of my favorite people. I think I did more NFL Total Accesses with this man than anybody else. And the one year that I was honored to be the MC of the Pro Football Hall of Fame was the year that he went in, and it is an honor. I have a good friend, Rod Woodson, back here on the show. How are you, Roderick?
It's always great seeing you.
Good seeing you. Thanks for coming straight from the airport.
It's my pleasure.
You don't take your shoes off on a plane, do you?
I do not.
Okay.
Well, cross country, yes.
What do you mean?
If I'm going across the United States,
you will take your shoes off on a plane?
I might take my socks off too.
No, Rod, hold on a second.
I need to be comfortable.
I understand.
I'm trying to sleep.
But it's not your. Is it a flying living room? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
of course,
I'm
yeah.
there too.
Yeah,
I'm there too.
My feet smell good, Rich.
Are you really?
Yeah, like roses.
You never struck me as a my feet don't stink type of guy. I always thought that you're humble.
Well, I just wanted to make sure because I took the socks off, and some people's feet do smell like old corn chowder or something like that.
Non-roses.
Yeah, non-roses.
Yeah. Okay.
So
good to see you, man.
It is.
I would love for you to start with what you said on the Callaway Corner during the TV-only segment where you're putting about number 26 of the New York Football Giants.
A lot of people criticize the Giants for taking Barkley so high up because they're talking about Eli being on his last leg and replacing him, but you have to take the best player there, and he is by far he was the best player in the draft. He is so special. I mean, he reminds me of a combination of a Barry Sanders, Chuck Foreman, Earl Campbell, all combined into one.
And Aikman used Emmitt Smith as a comparison because of the number of times people miss on the first attempt to tackle him.
Yeah, and his runs that he makes, the first touchdown run he had this year, where he scampered through the middle, jotted it to the right, and it was like a 68-yard or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. He made three people miss, and then he outran everybody with their angles when he got to the sideline. That is not normal.
And you don't talk about rookies this way ever.
I normally don't, but that's not normal. You see flashes of greatness, but this kid is really special.
Who was the toughest running back you ever had to tackle?
Oh, I had to tackle?
Yes, sir.
Kevin Mack. He was the hardest one to physically bring down.
All right.
Now, the best running back I ever played against is Barry Sanders. He was the one guy that when you played against him, we had rules for our defensive ends. They couldn't get too high up toward the quarterback because if you gave him a running lane, he was going to take it. And then another rule was that we didn't fold early.
What do you mean?
Meaning, so if I'm on the right side and he's going to the left, we stayed because he was going to come back. And most running backs don't do that. They stay on the front side.
Right.
But, Barry would be one of those guys who can cut and see, had great vision, had strong legs, was faster than what people thought. And this kid is faster than what people think he is, too.
Well, Ron, I mean, the number of people who have said that they made a mistake choosing Barkley because Eli is on his last legs, as you pointed, as you said, the number of people who said that maybe have doubled or tripled overnight based on what we saw last night. Do you think this is a wrap for Eli Manning?
Yeah, I never thought Eli was an elite quarterback. I think he always played well. The year they won the Super Bowl, he had some solid games leading up to the point. The last year, their defensive front was just a pretty good front that got after the opposing quarterbacks. I never thought he was, that franchise quarterback, even though he's been there a long time. To me, franchise quarterbacks transcends your team. The Aaron Rodgers, the Tom Bradys, the Drew Breeses, even the Phillip Rivers. I mean, those type of guys, they stay there, but they make your team better just because they're on your team. Those are franchise quarterbacks to me. Those are rare players. We can all say that all these guys, every team has a franchise quarterback because he's been there 10 years. I think that's just like selling a dream to a fan base that's awake. I just think that you have to be very careful with that. To me, my standard is higher. And when I say I have a franchise quarterback, it's going to be one of those type of guys.
And Eli's not that guy.
I don't think Eli is.
Do you think he is, regardless of whether he was or not, or is or not, is he on his last legs? Do you see a quarterback that is done? Yes?
I think well, first of all, it's hard to judge him with the lack of protection that he does have. That is tough. It's tough on a young quarterback. It's definitely tough on a veteran quarterback. But it's definitely tough on a quarterback that we know he's going to be 7 yards deep behind the center and the guard. He's not moving. He's not going anywhere. He's not getting out of the pocket. He can't get out of the pocket. He's never been that type of quarterback. And now you have less protection for him. It's tougher for him. But I just think that this is his last year or so.
But isn't Brady a guy that you know where he's going to be in the pocket too?
Yeah, but he's different. He's that guy that he's seen everything. He's going to be 7 yards behind the quarterback, but he can anticipate. He knows who he wants to challenge. He knows the defense before it's even ran.
But Eli does too, don't you think?
You know what?
The neck up on Eli Manning has never been in the question.
I don't think he sees it like Tom. Tom's different. Aaron Rodgers is different. Drew Brees is different than all those other quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers is different than all the other quarterbacks. They can still, like Phillip Rivers, he can't run from me to you in 20 seconds. But, man, he can throw the football. And that's what Dan Marino was the same way. Danny couldn't run from me to you, but Danny could throw the football. And those type of quarterbacks, to me, are the hardest ones to face because you can't disguise against them. And then if you give them any little room, any little notice of what you're doing as a defense, they pick you apart.
Well, you got to be careful, Ron Woodson, because Eli Manning may be in that bus gallery with you one day.
What bus? I don't own a bus.
Bust gallery.
Oh, bust.
Gallery.
I don't vote.
Okay.
I don't vote.
But if you did, would you put him in the bust gallery with you?
I would say the Hall of Fame to me is the greatest of the greatest to ever play in the National Football League. There's only 300-some odd guys in the league.
True.
That's, players and contributors. And when you look at all the quarterbacks that are in, does he strike you as being one of those guys? To me, I say no. And I, watched him for a long time, played against his brother, coached against him last year. Or no, excuse me, he wasn't there. That was the game that he got benched.
That's the Geno Smith game.
That was a Geno Smith game. So didn't get to coach against him, but when preparing for that game, I'm like, he's a looker. And what I mean by that is there's certain quarterbacks that can look you off, like Drew Brees on the touchdown breaking pass that he had in the game. He was dropped back, and Sean Payton is really good at teaching his quarterbacks how to pump away, but they know that DBs read shoulders of the quarterback, and he two-hand pumped.
Yeah, he moved that left shoulder. Yeah.
Which brought the defender up, which gave him a bigger gap to throw on the backside of on the sideline, and he took that pass. To me, I just don't see Eli being that type of guy.
What about Phillip? Would you put him in the bust room?
That's a tough one. That's a real tough one because I love the way he plays. I love how he can throw the football. I mean, he'll sling a sidearm, and it gets there. And he's never had a bunch of great, talented receivers. He did have the run. He had LT. He had. He did have the tight end.
Gates. He will be in the bust room. With
absolutely.
You. Right.
Gates will be.
Right.
And I think Phillip will definitely. I think he would get in. Because I put him at high praise because I just know that he's not real athletic, but the guy's a great competitor and he's a great thrower of the football.
And what about the last member of the 2004 class still around, and Big Ben? Do you think he's a Hall of Famer, Ron?
I like Ben. I do. I think he's in that category. I don't know if he transcends the teams. I don't know if he went to Green Bay will still be Green Bay. I'm not sure of that. I know if Aaron Rodgers still went to Pittsburgh was still might be better because he's a little bit more mobile. But I've always liked Ben. I think Ben is one of those quarterbacks that, he's taken the team to another level. He's had some great players around him over the years. So he'll be another one that's argued about getting in. And it's a quarterback-driven league.
Yep.
The rules have changed over the years. So I think we have to pump the brakes on two things because we see this explosion on offense.
Yes, we do.
Where so many points and yards are just given on a daily basis, and how terrible the tackling is gone in the National Football League is just crazy. But with that being said, I think we have to pump our brakes because these receivers are just catching the ball so easy that they're overly protected. The quarterbacks are overly protected in the pocket, out of the pocket. They can throw. They can do whatever they want to.
Mm-hmm.
You can't land on them. You don't know how to tackle them. And I think, God bless you.
No, he's allergic to the
Thank you,
defensive
sorry.
rules as well,
hate
Rod.
defensive
So
talk.
He's
Oh,
allergic
my
to it
gosh.
as also, yeah.
And, to me, I think we have to pump our brakes with some of these younger guys that say we can't crown them so fast. They got to do it over a longer period of time.
I got 3 minutes left with you here, Rod Woodson. All eyes peeled for Lev Bell right now because he said he would come back around week 8. Maybe he wants to collect some checks. He comes in now. They're not going to play him this week, and then they got to buy. So he can get $1.6 million in his pocket if he shows up today or tomorrow. If he does, what happens in that locker room, do you think?
Well, he's not going to show up now. I think if he does show up, it will be after the bye.
Okay.
Not during the bye. I think it'll be after the bye. I would love to see him come in. I think he's a competitor. And since James Harris put it out there already, saying if he's going to might come in and, he should get like a hamstring pull.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he can do that. I think he's a competitor. I think he's going to come in. I think he's going to help that football team win some games. They're not a September team. They've always played bad in September for some reason, especially under Tomlin. But October, they play a little bit better. I think they're going to win this game when they go on the road against Cincinnati. They always play well in Cincinnati. So I think they're going to get back on the right track.
And is Tomlin the right guy for the job still, do you think?
I love Mike.
Steeler Nation every year seems to wane a little bit on
There's
him.
some of the rules that he has on the defensive side and that I have questions
Mike,
about.
what do you mean?
Well, I mean, just, when you go back and watch the Kansas City game, they're playing single high defense on the 10-yard line, a true cover 3, and they're not touching the slot players, meaning our curl flat players not standing there rerouting the number 2 player to give the number 1 player who's a 2-to-1 read corner opportunity to get back there. It's like some of those things like you wouldn't have saw with the Dick LeBeau defense, but it's not his. So the defense is different. They're playing a lot more Tampa 2, more 2-man than normal. But I think it's going to all come together. They got some good young talent. And if the offense can carry them till they find their legs, then I think that's what happen.
Well, I got to send you up the 405 to the NFL Network. You're on Total
We'll be there.
Access tonight without me, but that's okay.
I'm gonna start crying when I get up there.
Am I your quarterback?
You're my guy.
Real quick, just in the 40 seconds we have left here, my favorite story is when you thought that Sean Alexander needed more MVP love, but you thought the Seattle Seahawks front office wasn't pounding the table for him.
They weren't giving him
any love. You called that out, and we got a call from the other side saying, hey, the Seahawks have been very good giving us these players. Rod's got to pull back on that later on in the show. And you're like,
I apologize.
Well, you found that information. Like, Rod, can you say something later on in the show just to soften what you said? And you're like, what? Like they told you. You're like, okay. They come on camera. Rod, you want to say something to the Seattle Seahawks? And he goes, I'm sorry. Like that.
That was it.
I'm sorry. Like a baby.
Just like a little kid apologizing for telling the truth.
He spits the truth tonight on NFL Total Access at 7 Eastern Time. Thanks for coming here and keeping your shoes on for the segment, Rod. I appreciate it.
It's comfortable here.
Come on back, Rod Woodson.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.